Hi, and welcome to the Ben Men podcast. We know that the Christian life can be hard to figure out, but we also believe that everyone should know their next step for making their spiritual life more important to them. I'm Pops.
I'm Dave.
And I'm Bob.
We have entitled this soul care series, When Life is Tough. And so we've been examining some challenging issues that affect both us and our friends.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be talking about something that affects everyone at some time, and that's envy and jealousy.
Yeah.
So,
Much like how jealous I am at Pops' cufflinks right now.
100%.
I don't know if you've seen these. If you are not watching this on YouTube, stop listening.
This is a
Well,
sign
keep
from
listening,
God.
Keep this running in the background, listening on whatever.
But
the audio.
download and pull up the YouTube
Go
app.
to YouTube just so you can see Pops' cufflinks because he's killing the game.
I was gonna say when one of my classmates in 7th grade got a Motorola Razr phone.
Oh,
That was like the most jealous I think I've ever been. And it was the
man.
gold edition one.
Those are cool.
Oh.
Yep.
Anyway.
so since we've already gone through the issues and shown your blackened hearts,
Thanks for listening to the yeah.
somebody give me a definition that distinguishes between envy and jealousy, because they're actually not the same thing.
Yeah, they can be a little bit different. So envy wants what someone else has. So whether that's their status, their possessions, their lifestyle, that's big, their relationships, their characteristics. Envy wants what someone else has. Jealousy is a suspicion or fear that another person is seeking to take away what you perceive to be yours.
Yeah.
So both jealousy and envy, they're self-centered, they're unloving, they're destructive emotional problems, but there can be a little difference.
Yeah, so let's move right into that, and that is, what are the causes for envy and jealousy?
Well, the typical stems of them, one, very obvious, the P word, let's all say it together. Pride.
Yes.
I probably said that best, though. Let's be honest.
For sure I did, though, because I was louder. An undue attention on yourself, this belief that you deserve more success or more recognition than others. So that, I would say, is first. Second, an inappropriate comparison of yourselves to others.
Yeah.
Whether it's accurate or not. I mean, you could think like, man, I wish I was as jacked as that guy, or I was rich as that person, or whatever. And you may be, but it's this weird sort of maybe psychological or mental dysmorphia. I don't know. So comparing yourself to others, and then lastly, putting too much value just straight up on what I would just sort of reductively call the worldly things, worldly gains, whether that's again wealth, status, appearance,
money. Oh, you said
talent, like whatever.
Yeah.
That stuff again
Yeah.
that you can't take with you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, quite honestly, and it wasn't just before I became a Christian in my late 20s, but when you're in trying to get into medical school, when you get into medical school and you want the best residencies or you want the residencies, man, I'm telling you, there is a lot of infighting. There's a lot of jealousy. There's a lot of envy. People get those positions that you wanted or whatever. And as you both know, I've been overly blessed in all those areas. So why would I even be envious of anyone? And yet I was, and to my shame. My shame.
It's the curse of more, but
Well,
Yeah, it
we'll
is.
talk more about that.
Well, let me use that. So, what are the symptoms then of envy and jealousy? Because that was a perfect personal example. So,
Yeah.
envy and jealousy, they manifest themselves in disappointment
Yeah.
with God's provision, right? God, you haven't given me enough. With lack of contentment and dissatisfaction with life, like, oh, I just don't like my life. And resentment towards someone else's success, right? This
Yeah.
gets personal. Like, I resent you for having success and me not having.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they are by nature, is the right word, entropic. They just destroy, corrode.
Entropy, dude.
Entropy, is
word
that
of the
right?
day, entropic.
I've
sure.
had one cup of coffee. Well, we're just gonna roll the dice and see if it's a real word.
Oh, good.
Because when left unchecked, where can they ultimately lead? Unchecked envy and jealousy lead you to the point of not just wanting what another person has, a fear that others are going to take what you have, but will ultimately lead you to hating others, wanting their destruction, death. There's a lot of cool old writings about how those sort of mortal sins, when left unchecked, manifest into really brutal ways.
And I'll tell you,
It's not innocent. You can't just be a mega jealous and envious person and think, it's not going to have a problem.
and before Bob jumps in, being a pastor, I'll just add that I think one of the best biblical examples is King Saul and his ultimate embitterment and hatred and seeking the death of David. You know, That to me, if you really want to read about that, you'll see that fleshed out perfectly. Now, we're talking about jealousy, we're talking about envy, but when we read Exodus, we learn that our God is a jealous God, right?
Okay.
And we were just talking about how jealousy isn't a good thing. What makes God's jealousy different from human jealousy?
Yeah, just saying the word doesn't mean it's intrinsically wrong, but the version we've explained so far was the wrong version. You start with God's.
Yeah, so
You're the pastor. You should probably take that one.
there you go. I'll talk about God. Man, okay, so the key, maybe obvious difference, if you just pause for a second to think about it, between us and God is God's the creator. God owns it all.
Yeah.
So his jealousy is justified, right? He has every right to expect his creations to worship him and to serve him, catch this, alone.
Yeah.
That's his right as the creator God.
Yep, that's right. That's right. I think if you continue that sort of down that road, you recognize that by nature of us having been the creator's creation, it is in our actual design that for us to worship or obsess or want anything else but him is in fact idolatry.
Yeah, that's a good word.
And I think like you're saying, Bob, it is in fact completely appropriate for God to be jealous when his people worship literally anything else but him. For one, it's not actually worship, but I mean it's completely misappropriated. And worship, by its definition, is due only to God and God alone. So it's kind of like multiple strikes against us. It's like you weren't designed to do this thing. Oh my gosh, and that thing that you're doing for that idol is categorically not meant to be done that way. You're abusing this beautiful thing called worship, even in and of itself.
So, and I would say that envy and jealousy ultimately, and I think we've alluded to this, is just a rebellion against God. It's a rebellion against what he has given us.
Yeah.
And it is the exact opposite of love, right? Because love is going to rejoice over the good in others. St. Thomas Aquinas, in the Summa Theologica, he wrote, "Charity rejoices in your neighbor's good, while envy grieves over it." So we listed some of the things that people put as idols: position, power, finances. Those are shallow substitutes for having a fellowship with God. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Luke 12, Jesus tells us very clearly, one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things that we own or that we possess. Now, can we overcome envy? Yeah, I think we can. We're going to talk about how we really flesh this out more. But again, to sort of draw this down to a point, we can overcome it if we choose.
Yeah.
If we choose to celebrate another's good, right? And if we want to focus on their good qualities. It's not easy, right? So where do we start in overcoming?
That's a good segue. That's a good segue now to push toward
Let's talk about how are we going to overcome.
There is no hope. You are destined to be an envious heap of human garbage.
Because we are all sinful.
At least that's how I interpret it. No, I would say the first step is in sort of ponying up and recognizing that there's got to be at some level the transformation of your own mind. Scripturally, I think of that put off, put on motif. So it starts by putting off what? This sort of self-obsession, pride-fueled envy and jealousy that says, what I have is inadequate, who I'm created to be is inadequate, my relationship to God is inadequate, who he is inadequate. Yeah. I mean, it's, basically misappropriating all what your actual best interests are. So the putting on then would be what? Well, a sincere belief that what you have, you can be truly satisfied with. Because God is good, God is perfect. He's created you and created you for a certain life that looks like worship due only unto him. Just said unto on a podcast. I also read the KJV. No, I don't.
Good.
I don't.
That was good.
Don't apologize.
But all that being said, just trusting that he will meet the needs of your very soul because he will.
And it starts in your mind. Like it's something you can actually put off and put on perspective here. I was talking with Caroline, my wife, and she mentioned to me how, because I mean, I'll be honest, I was a little naive. Like as a guy, I think, before I started dating, I don't think I realized that so many women, it feels like they have this inbuilt comparison thing, where they're just very quickly going to jump to like, well, how am I? Who am I in comparison to other people?
Sure.
Other women in particular.
Sure.
Not every woman, but I've just seen that to be true.
Sure.
And and Carolyn was telling me how like she's gone through seasons where like a really dear friend of hers will be like, she'll be kind of envious of her or jealous of her about something, and then find out later that that gal was envious of her about like the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you were jealous of me? That's so sweet. So
And it's
like this
almost flattering.
It's flattering. It's weird.
bit
But it
distorted,
also, but I think what it made, and her point is like, points to the fact that it never ends.
Correct.
Like it's never going to stop. And here's what she said to me that was so helpful. She said, even the people that have something you want something too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So it's not like they have everything going on.
Yeah.
So you can't rate it based on what they have or
Bingo.
their lifestyle. It's
Bingo.
got to be rooted somewhere else, and that's where you're
Yep.
pushing it to like mindset.
Look, we've all watched The Greatest Showman. We all sing "Never Enough."
Yeah. let's stop
I'm
right
gonna
there.
underlay the background
Yeah.
music.
Hey,
I do wanna
editors,
add
can you
one
auto-tune
thing,
that real
and
quick?
this is again speaking from my own sinful heart. That comparison is not gender specific.
Yeah.
And here's how
That's
I
right.
would say that. Go to a bodybuilding contest and
Oof.
yeah. And Dave,
Dave,
you've
you
been
know
in
that
it.
one.
Can work so stinking hard for so stinking long, and then you show up and you're like, wait a second,
Yeah.
that dude's in my weight class?
Yeah.
Ah, crikey, his hamstrings look better, his biceps are juicier. Like, and then what's funny is, because that's actually how I met my last training partner in Denver, because like we were super competitive. We actually trained at the same gym, competed against each other in my first bodybuilding contest. Then I find out he's like, yeah, dude, I was so envious of your blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I was so envious of your blah, blah, blah. What? Dude, there's nothing you could possibly be envious of me about, right?
Even people
Yeah.
who like the normal mortals like myself would look at it and go like, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Even it's a struggle.
They're the
there,
most
too. So
dysmorphic.
we gotta look
So
somewhere
why
else.
don't
Yeah.
let's move on to the so what?
Yeah.
How can Christians practically overcome envy and jealousy?
Bob, give me 3.
Let's do it. 3 steps.
Uh-huh.
Come on.
1.
3 steps we can take to overcome Gen V or LSC. Did I say Gen V or
Yeah,
LSC?
Gen V.
Hashtag Gen V.
Wow. all
That's
right.
after Gen Z.
That's our going backwards.
Very
in the alphabet.
envious generation.
Envy and jealousy. Love, contentment, and love. Now, that may sound redundant.
It's like a
but
love
just-
Oreo.
Yeah, love, contentment, and love. The first one, love. We need to understand God's love for us. So spend time with God, like realizing what he says about himself first and about you. Man, read Psalm 139.
Oh.
Psalm 139 is awesome. It talks about how he knit us together in our mother's womb. It says, in your book were written for me every one of my days when before as yet there was one of them, right? How much love and value and
Yes.
purpose he has for us and for us
Us.
specifically.
Yeah.
So study that, meditate on it, memorize it, and obey it. Like spend time with God, embracing his love for us. And then that will begin to help us move toward other things. But I think it starts with coming to God and realizing God has this love for me that unless I can capture that, I'm going to chase other places for my satisfaction.
so
I'm going
good.
to offer a quick example of this. I got a friend who has told me recently he was really, in his early professional career, he was really chasing the ball with business and skyrocketed, was making tons of money, was traveling. And he said, my life was a wreck.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until recently, here was the phrase, he said, I've been starting to put God at the center of my life.
Yeah.
Because someone asked him, hey, dude, what are you actually living for?
That's a very convicting question.
It is.
Oh,
It
especially
is.
in that arena.
Man, so I would say first is love. Understand God's love for you.
Well, can you finish the story? I mean, did he turn things around, or is he still?
Yeah, so we meet and chat multiple times.
He went on to found a company called Amazon. Maybe you've heard of
Oh
it.
my gosh, no, no, man. But I will say, like, I have never, even in my year or two of knowing him, have never seen him more content or bringing up who God is and seeing God at work in his life more than he is right now.
That's so great.
In part because he's searching after God and understanding how much God loves him.
That's so
And
great.
because he's a millionaire and has no stresses in his
Oh
life.
my gosh.
No,
All right, do
that's
number
not
2.
how it works.
Okay, love. So now you do number 2.
Contentment. And contentment, again, when you consider like envy, jealousy, those things question the very sovereignty of God.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
this imbalance and it's an undue comparison with all the things we've been talking about. Material things, talents, wealth, honors at work, grades in school, spiritual gifts, even Christian.
Yeah,
Okay, right?
yeah.
All that. So I think anecdotally, when I think back to going like, dang, when I graduated college, I was heading off to do more school, and my best buddy was heading off to a job that he was going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
He moved to a super cool city, got a super cool car. He was living the life. Like, it's hard not to look at that. And then you recognize this. It's on us, truly on us, to develop a lifestyle by God's grace that's one of gratitude and worship. So that reorientation means what?
Yeah.
Like you're saying with your friend, building a life of contentment is first and foremost recognizing that you have everything you need from the great provider.
Yeah.
Everything that you need. So thank God. Thank God for his constant love and care and attention. Remind yourself of who you are in his family and who he's made you to be by design. And affirm in your own heart the things that God has done in your life already, the characteristics and qualities he's given you. Because again, you have a life full of blessings. It's on us to acknowledge and recognize those on a daily basis. And you do have to do it daily because we are very goldfishy-minded people. We will forget so quickly, wow, that amazing thing he did even a year ago. I hardly remember now if I don't remind myself.
Dude, because gratitude and worship are literally things you can practice every day, every morning, every lunchtime.
Yeah, it's not
Thanking
philosophical.
God and
You don't have to wait
worshiping
on it. Do it.
Yeah.
It's a thing you can do, fortunately.
I want to go back to something that you said on a previous podcast that is so applicable here, Dave. And that is when we are totally self-focused, we are going to be envious and we're going to be jealous. And what you're saying, the remedy for jealousy and envy is to take the focus off of us and
Outward focus. Reflect.
focus upwards on God.
Yep.
That's
And then
such a great.
Well, I'm going to take the second piece of that.
Oh,
'cause that's
okay.
The third step. and
Oh,
that
okay,
is-
I'm sorry.
So
All
he
right.
was taking focus on contentment, which is looking up toward God in gratitude and worship.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give us to the third step. So love, contentment, love. Because the third step is love others then as God loves you.
That's great.
So you've taken the ability to draw close to God, embrace and understand his love for you. You've become more content in him as you've been more practicing gratitude and worship. And now you can love others in practical ways day by day by day. So when we focus less on ourselves by just real brass tacks serving people, like God loves that, our heart starts rejoicing in that. And it really doesn't leave space for envy because our impulse then is like, how can I love this person instead of what does this person have that I want? Or what can I take from this person emotionally, if not in real life?
Yeah.
Or what are they going to take from me? So I have to throw up a guard. Because love, it just doesn't seek to benefit itself. So as challenging as it may be, I think one of the practices here is like learn to, even if you're not actively in someone's life, like making them a meal or like taking them out to the movies or something like that. And that way, pray for God's blessing to be poured out on the person whom you envy, right? And then give thanks to God for provision for that person. Like, Lord, thanks so much for this coworker or this boss that I have. Like, you know, they have a position that I would want right now, but God, you've given it to them and there's a responsibility. I thank you that you've done it. Please bless them and use them in that position.
Yeah.
And that's a choice you have to make. So one of you all give us a call to action for this week.
Are you cool if I just take it
Take
there?
us out to the movies. Show us some love on social media. No.
That's right. Give your choice. What's our next step this week? Pray for someone you're jealous of.
Oh,
This is a hard one. And see if God uses that to start changing your own heart toward them.
yeah.
Maybe it is a coworker or a fellow student. Maybe it's someone that you go to church with.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a family member, right? We all get jealous about different things.
Yeah.
So we would even love to hear, you don't have to pour out your deepest, darkest secrets, and you don't have to put us on like social media who the name is of the person that you are jealous of right now. But
yeah.
shout out to us and let us know like what's an area where you're being tempted to get jealous about right now. Because some of you guys may say like, yeah, it is the fitness and the body image thing. Some of you guys may say like, yeah, I have all this student debt and I feel financially like I want what other people have.
Yeah.
Like let us know, or let us know how God worked and he tweaked that and he changed that. And you're like, dude, I'm starting to bless my coworker and I'm able to rejoice with them because I've been praying for them like every single week for the past 3 months.
That's
Tell
wonderful.
us how God's helping you. We'd love to hear from you in the comments or on socials.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Ben Men Podcast. We know that the Christian life can be really hard to figure out, but we also know that everyone needs to know their next step in their spiritual journey. Ben Men is a resource ministry that exists to help you discover your next step.
Yeah. So that being said, if you're watching here on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. If you're not subscribed, the algorithm Doesn't always make it very easy to discover something like a little ministry like Bin Min. Engage with us on social medias, like Bob said. Social media, not medias.
Medias.
Like Bob said. So we want to hear your story. We're not just doing this for us. We're doing it because God's called us to it, but we want you to be empowered to know your next step. So if you have questions, shoot us an email, post on the things we're putting on LinkedIn, on social media, and on YouTube. Show notes are on the website, and if you've got long drives now that the world is opening back up, do the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. We'll look forward to next time. God bless.